Okay, guys, thanks for joining this session today with Loughborough University. We're going to run through a presentation from Alicia, you can see on your screen, from Loughborough. We're then going to have a quick visa session with Catherine, who I'm sure a lot of you have met. She's based in the Nairobi office. We've then also got two current students who are online and ready to answer your questions. So if you're already working with a counsellor at UniServe, you probably received this invite from them. If you're just interested in the university, I'm going to pop our email address in the chat box. So if you don't get the chance to ask the questions that you have today, you can always get in touch with us via email. I'm conscious that a few of you were here early, and so you've been waiting quite a while. So I think we'll kick off. The session is recorded, so we will make that available after we're done as well. So Alicia, if you're ready.
Yeah, I am. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm here to talk to you about Loughborough University. I'm joined by two of our fantastic students, Chelsea and Trishi. One of them is still in the UK. One of them is there with you in Nairobi. So you'll get a chance to hear from them. And a big thank you to UniServe, as ever, for giving us the platform to engage with you. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about Loughborough Uni, but also I'll be talking to you as if you're already an applicant at Loughborough and you're going to be coming to us. So I wanted to run through what to expect from the UK at the moment, what's the current situation with the pandemic, and what kind of thing to expect in September if you do join us. So this is Loughborough University. My name is Alicia Butterfield and I'm Regional Manager at Loughborough Uni, and I have been there now for 10 years. I was also a student at Loughborough as well. So I did my MBA and I finished studying there in 2016. And this is where Loughborough is located. So for those of you who know the UK a little bit, we're near the three major cities, Derby, Nottingham and Leicester. And we're about 1 hour, 20 minutes, 1 hour, 10 minutes from London. There's a direct train that just goes Loughborough, Leicester, and then London. Loughborough itself is located in the middle of the UK. It's a market town in Leicestershire. And then we have a second campus as well. The second campus is based in London, and that's for postgraduate students. So if you're here today thinking about maybe some postgraduate study, we do actually have a second campus, just 6 minutes from central London. A quick overview of Loughborough University. How on earth to summarise such a fantastic university on just one slide? That's been the biggest challenge that I've faced today, I think. But I wanted to give you a snapshot of who we are. So Loughborough is a very, very friendly, very high-ranking British university. It's over 100 years old, and we currently have over 20,000 staff and students from all around the world. We have 130 different countries represented at Loughborough, and about 16% of our on-campus community is from overseas, is international. In terms of the mix, we have mostly postgraduates but also a lot of undergraduate students as well. In terms of the mix from Kenya, most of our students coming from Kenya tend to be undergraduate students, and they tend to come from the same set of schools. So if you are a student from St Andrews or Brookhouse or Poponi or Braeburn or Braeside, it's one of those things you will notice there will be classmates who have come before you, and you'll probably recognise some of them. The most notable thing about Loughborough is that we are very, very strong in sport. So if you're interested in a career in sport, or if you want to be an elite athlete, or if you want to study a sport-related subject, Loughborough University is #1 in the world for sport-related subjects, and we have been since 2017. We're in the top 10 ranking of all the major UK league tables. So Loughborough is a very, very solid academic performing university as well. And then there's reasons why, but we've won again the accolade of being University of the Year, and this is the 5th time that we've won that. In 2020, we were given that award. So why is Loughborough University of the Year again? I think this really came through when we look at things like a global pandemic. It highlights weaknesses and it highlights strengths, because as soon as something is under pressure or duress, that's when those things come to the fore. And what we saw last year was that Loughborough Uni reacted very, very strongly to the pandemic. Something completely unprecedented, something that we weren't expecting. And we didn't have any inkling that something like this would be happening in 2020, of course. So the university had to react quickly, but we also had to try and make the best decisions as well for our students and for our staff. So last year we implemented flexible arrival dates for postgraduate students. That meant that any student who faced a visa delay could arrive after the initial deadline, after they'd communicated that with us. For postgraduate students as well, we had online teaching starting. So that meant for a lot of students that they would start their studies online and then just join us by semester 2 last year. For the very first time, Loughborough offered a January start date for master's programmes. And then once here, students had access to a mixture of learning. So they had some face-to-face teaching and then they had some online classes. But our labs and our specialist equipment remained open, but in a controlled way. So basically we implemented one-way systems. We enabled students to still use the labs, but we extended lab times and things like that. And then finally, last year, we had some flexibility in terms of English language tests and getting transcripts, because we recognised that presented a problem for students. So what's the same this year? Well, we now know much more about how the virus works, and we've had a year of practice about how to handle things on the Loughborough campus. We're going to keep the January start date for some of our master's programmes. So if you're a student and you feel that you're running up to time or you haven't yet applied to Loughborough, but you want a master's, then it might be that your programme has a January start. That will give you more time to get yourself organised and fill all the conditions of your offer. On campus, there's an app which is called Connect and Protect. That app will notify students if they've been exposed to anyone who later on tests positive for the virus. And we have an on-campus testing and vaccination centre as well. So as an international student, you are eligible for the vaccine if you haven't had it before you arrive with us. You arrive on campus, you'll register as an NHS patient at the medical centre on campus, and then we'll notify you about how you go about getting your 2 doses of the vaccine. There is a self-isolation process in place. I don't know if Chelsea or Trishy have had to self-isolate on campus, so that might be one of my questions to them later and what their experience was like. But basically, if you do need to self-isolate, if you get a notification saying that you've been exposed, or if you start to exhibit symptoms of COVID, you'd go into self-isolation, and the university would then deliver food to you 3 times a day. We have a self-isolation platform that students can still stay in touch on. Obviously, you can access things like the library remotely as well. So there are things you can do in self-isolation. As we said last year, just because you're self-isolating does not mean that you're totally alone. So we really want to try and keep students engaged during that time if they have to self-isolate. There's a few practical things that we've implemented as well. We've introduced one-way systems on campus so that students don't overlap with each other quite so much. We've done online teaching as well. So for some big classes, if any of you are sitting here and you're an undergraduate and you're a business student, some of your classes might be 150 or 200 people in size. So rather than cramming 200 students into one room, we will teach that class online, but it will be live. It's not a pre-recorded lecture. That means that at the end, you can ask questions, you can get involved. In fact, our academics kindly request a lot of the time that you do put your camera on so they can see who they're talking to, and that way they don't feel like they're just speaking to an empty vortex. So we do have live classes, but Loughborough's priority remains face-to-face teaching as soon as it's possible and safe. So we're not looking to be an online teaching university. That's not what we've ever set out to do. In terms of what things look like in the UK at the moment, we're no longer in lockdown. By the way, lockdown doesn't mean that you're locked in. That was a student's question to me in a presentation that I did the other day. Nobody locks anybody in. Lockdown just means that non-essential businesses are shut. The UK is now out of lockdown. You must wear a mask if you're in a public place or on public transport, and obviously social distance where possible. That just means giving people plenty of space, not standing too close together. We can hug again, so you are allowed to give someone a hug. But we do say, obviously, on campus, please just be sensible with it and just bear in mind that we do want to keep the virus at bay. So I think one thing at Loughborough that's really stood out, and again, this is where the University of the Year factor comes in. Our students have been really, really responsible this last year. There's only been a very small number of students trying to have parties or breaking any of the rules. But even then, it's been very much under control. So we're really, really grateful to our students for just having that maturity to recognise what's needed here and for not being silly and getting themselves into trouble, and us in the meantime. For reference, when you come to Loughborough, your household refers to your flat or your shared house. So basically, if you are in a flat with 6 other students, they will now be your household. They're essentially your family within a family at Loughborough University. So they'll be the people you can spend time with indoors. You can meet with other people outside your household if you're indoors as well. Again, just be mindful of social distancing, and obviously any sign that anybody starts to exhibit symptoms of COVID, they would need to go and get tested straight away. You can gather with people outside your household if you're outdoors as well. So we can now have gatherings of up to 30 people in one place, provided they're socially distanced. And obviously there's an increase in relaxation of measures, until 17th of July. So every single week, the government's releasing different levels of advice, but basically things are opening up more and more. And I notice on campus, the gyms are open. There are, exercise classes going on campus. You can visit the beauticians, the hairdressers, all of those sorts of things now quite freely. If you're a student and you still have some conditions which you haven't met and you're still waiting to send us those details, I won't go through all of these one by one, but basically we're being more flexible than we have been in previous years. So for example, if you're waiting for somebody to send us a reference for you, we recognise that might be quite a little bit, a bit harder to obtain because of lockdown, and maybe your academics have since decided that, they're not engaged anymore, or whatever it might be. If you're having any trouble getting hold of a document, or your reference is not responding or anything like that, please just contact me. That's what I'm here for. My role is to facilitate anything to do with you before you arrive to Loughborough, and sometimes a little bit afterwards as well. And basically we can work with you on that. So as an example, we will accept references from a person of standing now, as well as just an academic reference. And a person of standing usually means a solicitor, a doctor, a teacher, somebody in a position of trust, maybe a magistrate, somebody like that. A-level and IB results, if you're an A-level or IB student, will be receiving your results as usual. So 3 days before you get them, the university will receive those, and that allows us then to process your offer to hopefully make you an unconditional offer holder. In terms of what to do next, if there are any conditions still on your offer, then please do fulfill those. So if you've got something sitting there, for example, we have students we're still waiting for proof of their English language. We do accept IGCSE English language as a first language. So if you haven't sent us your certificate yet, but you have it sat there, please do that. If you need the Uniserv team to go through with you what it is you need to do next, please do that. Just sit down with them and say, these are my conditions, and they'll liaise with me on your behalf. Please give yourself plenty of time to apply for your visa. There is going to be a visa presentation in just a moment, but there can be potentially delays. That's why the UK government has allowed a longer time in which students can receive their CAS number that they need to apply for their visa. So please give yourself loads of time. Do not leave it to the last moment and try and do it then. If you're a postgraduate taught student, now is the time to pay your commitment deposit. So commitment deposit is £2,500. You've made that payment through Flywire on the university website. And then that will release your CAS number that you can use to apply for your visa. Very, very important next step, just continue to monitor the COVID updates on our website. Again, Loughborough's worked hard to try and make sure that we're very much on point with the information that we're putting out there. And as soon as there's any updates that we can give you, we do give them to you. So please monitor those frequently asked questions on the website. If you're not sure about what's going to happen, if you're really not sure, but you want to reach out, then again, please feel free to contact me, because I'm very happy to have a chat with you about what will happen when you arrive. We're also updating our induction information. So as soon as a student becomes an unconditional firm offer holder, you're sent in information about the induction and what that will look like this year. It did look slightly different this year than it has in previous years, and I'll tell you a bit more about that in just a moment. Registration for accommodation is now open, so if you have firmly accepted your offer, you can register for accommodation on site. That just means that we know that you want on-campus accommodation. You'll then be invited to make your accommodation choices. That invitation usually comes to you by email. So again, obviously because of the pandemic, the preference has now really gone through the roof for students who want an ensuite bathroom rather than shared bathroom facilities. I think parents feel that it's probably safer, more hygienic and so on to have your own bathroom. So please be aware of that. The ensuite accommodation is getting booked up relatively quickly. If you haven't yet registered for accommodation, please take time to do that. You can also join the offer holder WhatsApp group. So I'm part of that, and it's just a chance to meet with other offer holders via WhatsApp, ask any informal questions that you might have that don't relate particularly to your application. Just general questions are very welcome there. And as usual, you can connect with myself. You can connect with us on applicant days. Those are going to be happening over the next few weeks. So an applicant day is where your department will put on a series of talks and presentations to give you some more information. And as ever, you can connect with our current students as well. So we've got 2 delightful current students here today, but there's many more that you can also chat to informally as well. If you are a student who's going to pay a deposit, so if you're a postgraduate student, please pay this through Flywire at the university website. Recently, we've had quite a few students trying to pay the university by bank transfer, and they haven't put their student ID on that. So the payment system is through Flywire. It's much more simple for you to use this, and you don't need to put in any numbers or references or anything. It's automatically linked to your account. So if you do make the payment through Flywire, it can take up to 48 hours for it to register with us. It's usually much sooner than that, usually within a couple of hours, and then you'll receive a notification that we've received that safely. In terms of accommodation, Loughborough is massive. So as a campus in the Midlands, we have around 436 acres of campus, so it is huge. And on that campus, we have a student village. So there's 7,000 rooms in total available on the Loughborough campus. So it's now open, as I said, for conditional firm and unconditional firm students to register for accommodation. Your prices for accommodation will vary depending on whether you have catered or self-catered, ensuite or shared bathroom. And the lower the price, obviously, the more likely it is that it's a self-catered room and it has a shared bathroom facility. But all of our rooms are single occupancy. If you share a bathroom, it will only be with the people in your flat. It's not with some random people that decide they want to come in and use your facilities. The bathrooms are shared between just the 6 people that are in your flat or your household. If you decide that you'd like to, then you can always live in Loughborough town itself. There is private accommodation available, and it starts at around £3,600 for the year. So Loughborough is a very, very low cost place to live if you're looking for accommodation in the town itself. For our London campus, the rooms there, the accommodation rooms are run by Unite. They're located very, very close to the campus site. So you can either walk across the campus, which takes about 20 minutes, or there's a shuttle bus that goes around every 10 minutes or so. And for those, the prices start from about £180 per week, including your bills. And obviously, again, private accommodation is available as well for London if you're on more of a budget for that. One thing to add to this is that the accommodation office is extremely busy at the moment. So they're getting a lot of queries and inquiries. So if you've got an accommodation question or problem, please come to me first. I might be able to solve it for you, and I'll probably be a bit faster than the accommodation team, who are going through quite a lot of high volume of calls at the moment. If it's something more complicated, so you're having trouble with your login, or you haven't got your choices, something like that, then I will still refer you to accommodation. But what I'll do is I'll be copied into all those emails, and that way I can see when your issue is resolved. So that just means I'm there in the background following it up on your behalf. For arrival to the UK, at the moment, Kenya is deemed to be on the red list for travel. So in terms of what that means, it means you can still travel to the UK. Let's be really clear on that. So you are permitted to come to the UK because you're a student. The advice on the UKISA advice website is that you're deemed to have residency rights because you're coming as a student. Now, we all know that sometimes you'll get somebody who's a little bit trigger happy at the border, and they decide that border control, they want to be difficult with you. Hopefully that this wouldn't happen, but UKISA advise that you print off a copy of their advice, which is on their website, and just carry it with you when you do come to the UK. And that way, if you just get that, if you're unlucky and you get that one border official who says you're not allowed to come in here, you can just whip out your copy of the UKISA residency advice, and it says it there in black and white that you are. Also, make sure that you have a copy or you have access to the university phone number. If you encounter any problems at all, once you arrive in Heathrow, if you get that difficult border officer out of bad luck, then basically you can call us and put them on the phone to us, and we'll explain the rules to them if necessary. Hopefully that won't happen, but just as a fail-safe. So red countries then, you would need a COVID test before travelling. So you need to be PCR COVID tested and come back negative before you travel. When you arrive in the UK, you'll then need to quarantine, and that quarantine period is 10 days. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be at Loughborough campus. You'd need to quarantine at a designated hotel, one of the government designated hotels. The university is currently looking at what support we're going to give our students when they do this. So watch this space, basically. We're working out how we can best support you in that position, but we've still got a few months left before any of this happens. So please just watch up for our updates on that. You'll also complete a passenger locator form. That's just standard once you arrive. And as I said, we'll be discussing the support that we can give internally. We're expecting an announcement or decision on that within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So if there's something we can do, if your country is still on the red list by the time September, October comes round, then you'll be contacted and you'll be told what the university is going to do to help you. And I'll leave it at that for now. In terms of the induction process, once you arrive on campus, then there will be a full induction so that you get to find your way around Loughborough. So there'll be things like campus tours, assistance with bank accounts and medical centre and everything else. We'll also sort out with you how you get to campus in the first place. So this is part of the support that we'll be offering once you've finished your quarantine process. And you might also want to link up with other students coming from Kenya as well. So we know that last year, quite a few students coordinated their taxis so that they could just get a taxi together straight to campus once they've finished their quarantine. You'll get presentations from societies during the induction week. You'll have a programme of activities from the accommodation office and everything else as well. So there will be socials, things will be happening, but bottom line is that lectures will start on the 4th of October. So if you're an undergraduate, we don't have an online provision for undergraduate students. You will need to be there and you need to be ready to start your classes on 4th of October. So that's the latest update from us. As I said, you can reach out and connect with us at any time. I'd suggest probably email is the best if you've got a question relating directly to your application, because that's the formal means of communication. I do sometimes put stuff out on Twitter that may well be relevant as well, so you're welcome to follow me on there. But we also have the offer holder WhatsApp group. So if you are an offer holder, you can text me your number, and then that way I can just connect you to the rest of the group, or you can email me your number, and that way you can connect with other people who are also coming from Kenya as well. So in case you don't get those, don't worry, I will put them into the chat as well. But that basically concludes my section of this, and I'm going to pass over to Catherine for some detailed information about visa application. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Okay, now let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, can everybody hear me okay and see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so as Alicia said, I work with UniServe. My name's Catherine Roberts, and you can find me in the Nairobi office Monday to Fridays. And I'm going to give you a brief presentation on the visa process now. So once you've applied to Loughborough, you've got your place, you've got your unconditional offer, you've accepted your offer, and you've got your visa in place. I'm going to go through the whole process of getting that visa application in. Okay, just making sure there we go. I'm just pinned myself somehow. Okay. So there were some changes to the immigration rules that came in October last year. So if any of you have previously applied for a student visa, or you have friends or family that have previously applied for a UK student visa, It may be slightly different for your application. The visas now fall under the student route rather than tier 4 of the points-based system. So that doesn't mean that you still don't need points to qualify, you do, but the title of the visa is now changed. So when you get your visa issued, it's now a student route visa rather than tier 4. The number of points that you need for your student visa has now increased from 40 points to 70 points, and I'll break down each of the elements for your 70 points to qualify for your visa. The main difference there is that you now need 10 points for your English language ability, so for your English language test, and I'll go through that with you. So as I said, you now need 70 points to qualify. The first 50 points of your 70 is for your CAS. And as Alicia said, your CAS is issued to you by your university once you've accepted your unconditional offer. So you've given your offer by your university. If it's unconditional, you accept that offer, and then the university will issue you your CAS, your certificate of acceptance of study. They won't give you an actual certificate, and it's an electronic document. And it's a series of numbers and letters that you put on your visa application form. You cannot apply for your visa until you get this CAS number from your university. It's not straightforward that you just get the CAS and then you get your first 50 points. Your CAS has to be valid. So in order to validate the CAS, it must be in date. It's only valid for 6 months at a time. So if for any reason you decide to defer your studies, you get your acceptance and your CAS is issued, and then you think, actually, I'm going to leave it a little while and I'm going to go a little bit later. If you decide to go after the CAS has expired, after the 6 months, you'll need to go back to your university and ask them for a new CAS. You may have to apply again for your place. So your CAS is only valid for 6 months. So you have to apply within that 6 month period for your visa. The other way to validate the CAS is it cannot have been used in a previous visa application. So if you're unfortunate enough to have a visa refused, you would again have to go back to your university and ask them for a new CAS number. If you made a second visa application with that same number that you were refused under, you would automatically receive a second refusal. And then you're in the realms of a third application. So as students, it's really, really important, because you're on a deadline to get to school, get to your start date that's set by the university, it's really, really important to get it right first time. And that's what we're here at UniServe to do, to make sure that all the boxes are ticked, all your supporting documents are in order so that you don't get that visa refusal, and then you're then struggling. You may get your visa issued later, but it may be too late to start your course, and you may find that you have to defer for the next semester, the next intake, or the next year even. So it's really, really important that you get it right first time. If your CAS is in date, it's never been used before in another application, so it's a new CAS. You also have to provide the supporting documents that are listed on the CAS. So that's the documents that the university have asked to see to award you a place on their course. And as I said, it's not a physical document, but your university will tell you if you need to provide any additional supporting documents in relation to your, usually your academic qualifications that they've used to award you a place on their course. So if you hit all those 3 elements, your CAS is valid. That's your first 50 points towards your visa. The next 10 points towards your 70 is for your money. The amount of money that you need to show the visa officer that you have to cover your tuition fees and living expenses for your first year in the UK. So if you're doing a 3-year undergrad, for example, it's only the first year that you need to show. Your tuition fees are set by the university, so they will tell you exactly what your course fees are. You can deduct any deposit that you've paid or any scholarships you've been awarded, and you just show the remainder of your tuition fees with your visa application. So if you've cleared your full tuition fees, you show 0 for your tuition fees with your visa. Your living expenses are slightly different. The amount of living expenses that you need to show depend on whereabouts in the UK you're studying. So Loughborough is out of the main London area. So it's £9,207 for outside London. That would be your full living expenses, for studying at Loughborough. Again, you can pay your first month's accommodation cost, but anything you pay above that will not be taken into account by UK visas. They will only deduct 1 month's worth of money for your living expenses. So if you paid a 50% deposit towards accommodation, they would only take 1 month's worth of money. And if it's private accommodation, they won't deduct anything. So that can only be campus accommodation. How you show your money is very, very specific for UK visas, for the student visa. The money can only be held in your name as a student or your parent or legal guardian's name. And a legal guardianship has to be an official legal guardianship. You have to have court documents to say that your sponsor is your legal guardian, that it's either adoption papers or a court order when you were a minor. It can't, unfortunately, just be a family member who supported you and paid your school fees throughout your whole childhood. It has to be an official court document documenting that person as your legal guardian. If you're using your parents' funds, you need to evidence your relationship with your birth certificate and provide a letter from your parent or legal guardian to say that they're happy for you to use their funds to support your visa application. Or the money can be in your own name. That's the only way that you can provide funds. Money must be in a personal account, so a checking account, a savings account, or investment accounts are now also allowed, but there cannot be any notice period on the withdrawal of those funds. So you have to be able to access the funds immediately without putting a notice period forward. So checking account, savings account are the best accounts to use for your visa. Fixed deposits are totally fine. And we do have a template that you can take to the bank, and they're happy to fill those for us, just breaking down the details of the fixed deposit, when it first started and rolled over and various things like that, just to make it explicitly clear to the visa officer that the money has been held for the required period. So for UK visas, the money has to have been in the account for a minimum period of 28 days prior to your visa application. So you cannot just put the money in your account and then apply for your visa. It has to have been in that account for at least a month, say, to be safe, before you apply for your visa. And these are the types of things that will go through with you at UniServe. We'll make sure that the information is tailored to your personal circumstances, the documents are for your individual circumstances, and that they support your visa application, because everybody's documents will be different for their own visa application. So the final 10 points, you've got 50 points for your valid CAS, you've got 10 points, you've got your money, you've got the right amount of money, it's in the right format, held in the right type of account. The final 10 points for your 70 is for your English language ability. And this is the new one that came in October 2020. Your English, you've always had to be assessed for your English language ability, but now they've incorporated it into the number of points that you need. So it's always been the case that you have to have been able to show a sufficient level of English to be able to follow a course in English. Studying in the UK, your course will always be in English. But how your English is assessed depends on where you're studying and what level you're studying at. So if you're studying at a mainstream university at degree level or above, then the university are allowed to assess your English language ability on behalf of UK visas, and they can choose their own method to do that. So they might ask you to do an IELTS, a TOEFL, or a Pearson's. They might just speak to you over the phone, or use your previous qualifications as evidence of your English ability. Whatever method they choose, they note that on the CAS document to say that they've assessed your English language ability and they're satisfied you meet the required level. If you're studying below degree level, you must do a CELT, which is a secure English language test. There are only 3 at the moment, different CELTs that you can do. There's the IELTS. I always forget the name of one of them. I think it's the PTE, and then the Pearson's, which we offer at UniServe. So we can help you with the Pearson's CELT if you do need to do one. But again, when you come in and see us, we can tell you exactly how you will meet the English language ability, and if you need to set a separate English language test, and then we can help you with that. So again, we'll tailor the information to your personal circumstances when you come in and see us. So you have your 70 points. So if you have your 50 points for your CAS, your 10 points for your money, your finances, and you have 10 points that you met the English language test. Unfortunately, that doesn't automatically mean that you get your visa granted. There is still a medical that you have to undergo. And for the student visa, the only medical that you need to do for the UK is the TB test. So that's the X-ray, the TB X-ray. There's only one place that you can do that in Kenya, and that's the International Office of Migration. It's currently 13,400 shillings, which is set by the International Office of Migration. They set their own fees for that. It's valid for 6 months at a time. So that's something that you can start thinking about now, because you do need an appointment for that. And it's not just the UK that use the International Office of Migration for their medical certificates. A lot of the other countries do as well. So those appointments will start getting booked up now during this busy student season. So it is valid for 6 months. So if you can get an appointment and get your TB test sorted, it has to still be valid at the date of travel. So please bear that in mind. If you need to wait a month or you need to wait a couple of weeks, depending on the start date of your course, just bear in mind that it is only valid for 6 months and it has to be valid at the date of travel. So again, if you decide to defer your studies for whatever reason, you'll have to go and do a new TB test if it's expired. So the final element that you need to meet, you have your 70 points towards your visa, you've got your TB medical in place, all is clear. You may be called for a credibility interview, and this is the final part. Not all students now are interviewed. At one time, every student would have been interviewed, and that's not the case anymore. Some students are selected at random. Some will be selected because the visa officer wants to verify something on their application form or a supporting document. You may not be told when and where you're going to be interviewed. You may just receive a telephone call. So you could be out, you could be at home, but you do need to prepare for that interview. It is a credibility interview and it does form part of the decision-making process. So it is vital to your visa application. So I always say to students, don't worry about it too much, because you are all genuine students and you will know, you'll be able to answer the questions that you're asked by the visa officer. But also don't take it too lightly. Because if the visa officer isn't satisfied, if you're too blasé about the credibility interview, you haven't done any preparation, and the visa officer isn't satisfied that your primary reason for traveling to the UK is to study, they can refuse your visa application regardless of you having 70 points and your TB medical in place. They can still refuse your visa if you fail the credibility interview. So we will offer some interview preparation if you would like it at UniServe as part of our service, as part of the visa service that we offer, just to guide you and give you an idea of the type of questions that you might be asked, and the answers that you would give to those questions. But as I said, you're all genuine students, so you should know these answers anyway. They're all questions around your previous studies, about the course that you want to go and study, what you'll be studying, and the university that you've chosen to study at. So as I say, don't worry too much about the interview. But please don't take it too lightly either. It is an integral part of the visa assessment process. So the timescales, this was another change that came in October. You can now apply for your visa up to 6 months in advance. Mainly for master's students who get their results and then they have time. They get their CASs issued in good time and then they have time to apply for their visa. Undergrad students are usually a bit on more of a tight time scale because you're waiting for your secondary education results to come in, your IB certificate, your KCSE. And then you have to get your unconditional offer and your CAS issued from your university. So you're on usually more of a tighter time scale. So it would be very rare for an undergrad student or foundation student to be able to apply for their visa before 6 months. But if you do get your CAS issued, my advice is always submit your visa application as soon as you possibly can. Again, because you're on a tight time scale, as soon as you've got your visa issued, you can relax a little bit. The visa won't be issued for 6 months in advance. You won't be able to travel to the UK. Your visa will still only be issued up to a month before your course start date, but at least you'll have your visa in place and you won't have to worry. And it takes that extra stress away that your visa is there ready for when you can travel. As I said at the beginning, you cannot apply for your visa before you get your CAS anyway, so you do often find that it does start to get tight. But at this time of year, the visa officers, they do this every year. Us at UniServe do this every year. So this is why we do these presentations, to make sure that you prepare well in advance. You can get your finances in order, get your English test in order if you need to sit a CELT, and get your TB medical in order, so that you have all those elements ready. So as soon as you get your CAS issued, you can get your visa application in. It can take up to 15 working days. That's the published customer service standards for UK visas and immigration. It can take much longer than that during the busy student season, and it can be much quicker, but they're supposed to turn around the applications in 15 working days. You can apply for a priority visa. So if it is getting tight, if your CAS is issued a little late for whatever reason, you've got to meet some conditions of your offer, and you have a deadline to get to school, so you're worried about not getting your visa processed in that time, there's additional fee for a priority visa, which is currently £220. So it's around $300, and that's on top of the approximate $500 application fee, visa application fee. That does fluctuate with the exchange rate. So it's approximately $500 for the visa application fee. And if you wanted to apply for the priority processing, it's an additional approximately $300. The priority processing does specify that the visa officer will turn that application around in 5 working days. But again, if your application is deemed non-straightforward, if they need to verify something, it can take longer. So it's not an absolute guarantee, but it does give you, usually they're done in the 5 working days. If your visa is unfortunate enough to be refused, and again at UniServe, that's what we're here to make sure that doesn't happen. As I said, you would have to start the whole process again. And as students, you're on a tight time scale. So that's what we don't want to happen, because it may well be that you rectify the problems in your previous application, you put everything right, you get your new application in, but now it's too late to start your course. Your visa's been issued, but the university have said, I'm sorry, we can't take you now, you've missed too much of the start of your course. And then you find that you have to defer to the next semester or the next intake, which could be the next year. So it's vitally, vitally important that I can't stress enough that you get it right first time. As I said, the visa fee, approximately $500, will not be refunded, or the priority processing fee if you've gone down that route. So that is not refunded, so you'd have to pay that again for your second application. As I said, you'd have to redo the whole application again, reapply online, new application form, get a new CAS from your university, get your supporting documents in order, and make a new application at the visa application centre, and an appointment to get booked in. And by this time, you may find that you can't get an appointment because everybody's applying at the same time, and you're now back at the back of the queue. So you might find that you can't get an appointment to submit your visa application. And again, all these delays may mean that, yes, you get your visa issued the next time, but it's too late to start your course. So I will keep stressing, get it right first time. And that's what we're here to make sure that happens. So the common mistakes, I've gone through most of these already, and I'll just stress through them again. So not applying early enough, so don't leave it to the last minute. As soon as you've got that CAS from your university, get your visa application in. So start preparing now. Preparation is key for your student visa. Come into the office, let us check your documents, let us make sure everything's in order. As soon as you've got your CAS, you're good to go. Applying with an invalid CAS. As I said, your CAS is your first 50 points, but it has to be valid. So if your CAS is invalid, your visa is automatically refused. So make sure your CAS is valid. Not providing original documents, it's not actually a requirement anymore. This wouldn't give you a refusal, but it could delay your application. So I still always advise students to provide original documents. And the reason for that is all documents now are scanned and sent to the visa officer, whether in the UK or Pretoria. Due to COVID, Pretoria are still processing some visa applications, but generally they should be done in the UK. Because scanned documents, you want a clear copy. So I always advise, where you can, use original documents. If you've got a photocopy and the visa officer can't read it properly, they're not going to refuse your application, but they may write out to you and ask to send a clearer copy. And then it's getting into that time delay. As I said, you may get your visa issued, but it might be too late to start your course. So original documents where you can, they're not sent off anymore to the visa officer. They are scanned and sent electronically. So you will take your documents home with you from the visa application centre. You don't have to leave them anymore, so you don't have to worry about that. Not providing your TB certificate, as I explained, that's the medical certificate that you need for a student visa, and it has to be still in date, so it's valid for 6 months at a time. Your visa form incomplete, that's what we're there to make sure all the boxes are ticked, crossed, and everything is in order. No evidence of your English language ability, so I said this is now part of the points that you need for your visa, part of the 70. You've got 50 for your CAS, 10 for your money, and 10 for your English ability. And we will go through that with you, tailored to your personal circumstances, to make sure if you need a CELT, if you have your CELT, or the university have assessed your English on behalf of UK visas. Insufficient funds, I went through the amount of money that you need to show and how you need to show it, very, very specific for the UK. And then the final two, sponsor not vouch for academic progression and exceeding time limit for study, kind of go together. So whilst you don't have to show academic progression as an international student applying from overseas, it is still assessed against your credibility. So it would form part of the credibility interview if the visa officer was not satisfied that you're progressing sufficiently academically. So what they want to see is that you do your secondary education, foundation if you need to, and then on to your undergrad, your master's, PhD. So there should be a natural flow without too many gaps in that period of study. If you're failing modules, you fail in the year of your course, you fail your course, or you chop and change halfway through a course and decide, actually, that's not for me. You know, I'm going to switch into this course now. The visa officer may well not be satisfied that you're progressing, and they can refuse your visa under the credibility grounds for that reason, that they're not satisfied that you're progressing academically. And then linked with the exceeding time limit for study, UK is the only country that has time limits on how long you can study at certain levels in the UK. So for a foundation, it's 2 years. So again, if you're failing modules and you're having to repeat, you only have 2 years to complete that course. If you go over the 2 years and you still haven't completed it, but you apply for another visa, the visa officer will refuse your application on exceeding time limit for study. For degree level, it's 5 years. So again, it's exactly the same. So if you decide halfway through your degree, actually, this course isn't for me, I want to do something different, you may find that the visa isn't issued because it would take you over the 5-year period. Again, if you're failing modules, failing a year, and you're having to keep repeating, it might take you over that period. For masters and PhD students, that's no longer in place, so you don't have a time limit for masters and PhD students. It's foundation and degree level. So they're the main points, a very brief presentation. And so we will tailor the information to your personal circumstances when you come and see us, and we'll go through all your documents. Everything we do at UniServe is completely free, so there's no charge. And we do everything right through from your helping you fill out your visa application form, checking your supporting documents, to your interview preparation, and making you an appointment at the visa application centre, making sure everything's in order so that we get that visa in place in good time for you to start your course. Okay, I think for me, that's everything. Who was the next person? I'll stop sharing my screen. That was just the information where we are in Nairobi. If anybody needs information on any of our other offices, then you can contact us and we can give you those contact details as well.
I think Trishi is next.
Hiya. Let me share my screen. Hiya, so I'm Trishi. Let me tell you a bit about myself. I studied in Hillcrest Secondary and graduated in 2017. I went to primary school at Peponi, In school, I used to play lots and lots of sports while I was there, and I've been in Loughborough for about 4 years, and I still don't want to leave, so I've decided to continue and do my master's there. I started in 2017 and will be graduating in 2022 and study medicinal and pharmaceutical chemistry. And I aspire to go into research and development in the pharmaceutical field, hopefully starting with a graduate program. Between all the 5 options we had to put into UCAS, Loughborough was my firm choice, simply because I went to university and automatically fell in love with the campus. I could see that there was a very, very big family feel throughout. It is really, really lively and so beautiful, with lots of fields and lots of greenery around. So it reminded me a lot of school. There was so much happening, from fundraising, volunteering, sports, societies, hall events, course-related events, and Loughborough also had a really, really good course for me. So it really interested me to study in the School of Science, and it's a very well-ranked and very reputable university. So let's talk about my experience. In the first year, my highlights were meeting new people, and I got to meet people from very diverse backgrounds. I met people from all over the world and made amazing friends in my course who I can easily say are my lifelong friends now. Definitely a plus having good friends on your course, and it makes studying a whole lot more enjoyable and easier. The number of societies that were available were just mind-blowing there. There were over 120. So being able to be part of societies and meet like-minded people was super fun and engaging in my first year. I was employability SIO for chemistry and took part as a model in the Dilse Charity Gala event. I also joined Cocktail Society, Hindu Society, Asian Society, and East African Society. There were so many events in the first couple of weeks, such as big rugby matches where everyone would go, and it would really just be like the movies, with cheering and incredible atmosphere, to international fairs where all the cultures would showcase themselves and have dances and food from different parts of the world. So we made some magali and tukuma and some beans. Let's not forget the amazing nights out. Just remember the Students' Union is one of the top in the UK, and they had events every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Wednesday is AU nights, which is athletic union, and sometimes have themes. There were also Fresher Week, and I clearly remember the sing-off, which all the halls have to chant about their hall and slowly get eliminated depending on how great their chanting skills were. There were lots and lots of socials going on with each society as well, where you get to do different events with people from the society on a daily basis and become really close with them. In fact, one of the people I met in Asian Society in my first couple of weeks was my housemate in my 3rd year. So after 4 years of being in university, so this year. Going to university from Kenya, I must say, is a major shock. The lifestyle in Loughborough is completely different to back home in terms of independence, and also just the daily, day-to-day ways of life. But it definitely teaches you a lot, and it's really fun and amazing learning it all. So in my 2nd year, I undertook AU kickboxing, and if you see me, I'm really small, so that's really fun. I was a beginner, and they offered this for most of their sports, but I got to learn from the start and also got to watch all the experienced kickboxers in fights and sparring, which was super, super fun and memorable. I took part in lots of recreational sports, from badminton and tennis to netball and yoga and Pilates. And so all these are student-led activities and are free, and they also get to keep you super active or just go have a bit of a hit about with your friends. I became the treasurer of Chemistry Society and also events coordinator of Dilse. I also got the chance to be a peer mentor for prospective students and first-year students in the chemistry department, which allowed me to interact and be a friendly face to newcomers. I got the chance to be student helper in the School of Science department, which is a paid job, and that's a fun and easy way to get money for all your nights out or any of your spendings. But they do offer lots of paid jobs, which are flexible hours throughout uni. Every course in Loughborough offers a placement year, and some offer study year abroad to their partner institutions around the world. So in my 2nd year, I did my applications to go study abroad in Sydney, and thankfully I got the opportunity to explore a whole new place of the world. So in Sydney, it was a completely different lifestyle to being in UK and Nairobi. The beach was about a 45-minute bus ride away, and I was so lucky to be living in the city centre. I got to study new modules, which were different to what I was studying here in Loughborough, and was a good change of university life. There were major differences in how uni was in Loughborough and in Sydney, each unique in their own way. For example, classes went on till 9 p.m. in Sydney, whereas in Loughborough they ended at 6. And secondly, semester starts in July till November and then break till March. And in that time, I got to go exploring, road tripping with my friends, solo backpacking, and my parents came over and we did some of the East Coast, Tasmania, New Zealand for 5 weeks. So an incredible experience. I also got to do both types of diving, deep sea, which I got my license for in Sydney, and I did 2 skydives in such amazing, beautiful places during these 5 months of traveling. We also got to do the Never Swing, which is a 70-meter free fall and 300-meter arc after, which had my heart in my mouth and a big adrenaline rush. I had to come back just a week into my second semester due to COVID and actually had to hotel quarantine. So really was a year of wild experiences. Going into third year, my parents were super skeptical of sending me back to UK in September. But being a STEM subject, I had to use the labs as such a big part of the course I had. The labs were so safe, and Loughborough was actually the benchmark for any other university being able to open its labs. The STEM lab is one of my favouriteest buildings in uni, and it opened when I started learning in 2017 and was part of a £17 million investment. So the equipment is peak and it really is a state-of-the-art facility. The third year for me was the most challenging, and I'm sure a lot of us can agree with that. COVID was really high, but Loughborough had amazing support facilities throughout, by COVID marshals, on-site testing facilities, people dropping off food if you're in isolation, and being looked after by the Connect and Protect teams. Online learning was also super fun for me. I think many people can defer to that, but I really enjoyed it, and I felt I focused better in the online atmosphere, and I had more time writing notes and stuff. Through COVID, I did get the opportunity to be a student ambassador for Loughborough. So I was working closely with the marketing team and also close-knit to higher teams in Loughborough, representing Loughborough in a positive manner and developing my interacting skills, talking to many people from different backgrounds and building my network even further, and which I've got to do throughout all my years in Loughborough. When I went through challenging times due to personal reasons, Loughborough had an amazing support system from everyone from personal tutors, teaching lecturers, and the student services all reaching out as helping hands. And that support remained constant throughout your years in university and is really important to have it. So accommodation-wise, in my first year, I didn't live in uni halls, and that's one thing I look back after 4 years and wish I did. I panicked and didn't know what to do when I didn't get the halls. But the one thing I realized is any hall you go to, you'll have super fun. There is student committees in each hall, and they have so much fun and so many events and socials between the halls. Being part of uni halls in the first year mold your university experience. Nevertheless, to say I did have an amazing first year, but I would have loved to stay in halls. And to off campus is pretty different. In my second and third years, I went to live in houses in a flat with my friends that I made in first year, and this was in town. This is pretty common for most students, but you can live all your years in university halls. And Loughborough in general, the student life is so fun. It is one of the best, and it's one of the most beautiful campuses I've seen. It's so big. As Lizzie said, it's about 436 acres. So it's a nice walk as well. It's very diverse, lots of international students, and it's a small town, so it's really cute and cozy. Nottingham and Leicester are at your doorstep for big city feels, but it's a really nice homely place and like family feel. And it's super open throughout. Thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Chelsea Wamboy. I'm just gonna do a brief introduction of myself. I didn't really do a presentation like Tricia did, but my name is Chelsea. I am from Kenya, but I do live in the UK, and I'm living in Loughborough, but I've not lived in Loughborough my entire life in the UK. I finished high school in 2017, but I went through the 844 system. I was in Kenya High, and I actually came to Loughborough. I started uni way later on than I was supposed to. So I'm currently still in my first year. I've just finished my first year. I'm going to my second year. And I'm gonna talk about Loughborough. I think I'll take an approach that I'm gonna talk about it. The things that I kind of wish I knew before I started uni, and especially with the COVID and kind of the mistakes that I have made, because I feel like Trishi has really highlighted the good things, which I totally agree with. But so for me, because I actually live in Loughborough, home is in Loughborough, I actually live at home. And I feel like that was one of the biggest sort of mistakes that I made for my first year, because that means that I have really missed out on a lot of, the social activities and the fun that goes on in Loughborough. And especially with COVID, it's already so hard to even make friends, even when you're living in campus because of COVID. So now imagine, I don't even live in campus and this COVID. So it's been really tough for me to make friends. So I actually kind of had to get to a point where I started being very intentional with literally asking people to be friends with me. Like I'll meet someone and I'm like, hi, could we hang out? Because it's really hard. And I really enjoyed my first semester actually, because we were going for in-person lectures, so it was a bit easier for me to meet new people and talk to them. But now in the second semester, we moved online, and personally, I have not had the best experience with online lectures, just because I prefer to be in a room talking to people and knowing that I'm interacting. It's very easy for me to kind of zone off when it's just everything is just online, and I just kind of feel like I get very overwhelmed. So my second semester has been a bit tricky, just trying to concentrate and do everything that I'm supposed to and remain motivated. But at the same time, I am aware that there's a lot of support. So anytime that I've had any mental issues, I have my personal tutor she's a very, very sweet lady. She's been really nice to me. So any single time I have a problem, I always speak to my personal tutor. And I would really encourage you guys, if you're actually going to end up in Loughborough, please make friends with your personal tutor, because they're going to be the people who really guide you. And because it can get very scary, especially as an international student, when you come into the UK and you're from Kenya and things run very differently. And in as much as I know that most of the students who come from Kenya come from, like the British system schools, and I feel like it kind of runs differently if I was to compare it to 844, because I did 844. It's a bit, the kind of values that we had were a bit different. So there was not a lot of support to students. So I really had to unlearn a lot of things by being at Loughborough, and just realizing that if you need help, there's someone that you can ask, and people are so ready to help. So because of how intentional I have been about wanting to make friends and literally just going to ask people if we can hang out, I've been able to make a significant amount of friends. I have not necessarily met people from Kenya, actually. I have a lot of friends from Nigeria, Ghana. I have a lot of Black friends who have lived in the UK. So I have been able to make friends, but I would definitely advise, if you're coming, especially as an international student, I would really advise that in your first year, please live on campus. It's honestly going to save you so much. It's going to allow you to get into the system and kind of understand how things work. It's easier to make friends. And once you make friends, it makes it less lonely for you to be there, because I understand how overwhelming it can easily feel when you just come here and now you don't even know how things work, and somehow you're supposed to figure it out. So when you kind of get a community and a group of friends who make you feel like it's not that bad, it really gets easier to deal with. I'm actually getting questions, sorry. Hello, Chelsea, would you please help me? Oh yeah, I'm gonna give you my contacts. I'm also an alumni of Kenya High, I'd like to advise. All right, the people who've reached out, I'm gonna leave my contacts down below, so if you want to speak to me after this, then you can. But yeah, so Loughborough to me, honestly, has been amazing. I was accepted into 4 universities, and I ended up picking Loughborough because I just really wanted to be in a smaller town that's cozy and community-like, because I have lived in London and I know how sometimes it can get very overwhelming. And especially as a student, I think it's important for you to live in a place that you're still able to remember that you're a student. Because I feel like if you live in a city that is too big and you're not able to sort of concentrate, you can get carried away by everything else apart from concentrating on your studies. So I do love the fact that Loughborough is a bit smaller and you're able to just, you know, kind of focus on your studies. And when you want to go out to just go and experience something different, we're close to Nottingham, you're close to Leicester, you can always take a train, it's really easy. But yeah, in general, I'm happy, and I'd definitely advise anyone to come to Loughborough. But when you do, just make sure that you're very proactive and wanting to get involved, because if you don't get involved, you're going to end up feeling like you're alone. And I feel like that's the worst thing that can happen in uni. So I'm really looking forward, you know, to go to my second year and my placement here as well. Because I didn't really know exactly what I was going to do with my placement here, but I actually had a conversation with Alicia, and she kind of advised me on what I could do for my placement here, because I'm taking accounting and finance. I'm not really sure if I mentioned that, but I'm taking accounting and finance, but I am actually interested in fashion. I do content creation, fashion content creation. So I would love to get into the fashion industry, but I'm not really looking to be a designer or anything. I want to be in the fashion industry as a business. So my course is still very relevant to what I want to do, because if I'm running a business, I still need to know how to run the financial matters and everything. So I do enjoy my course, but I'm not necessarily looking to be an accountant or anything. But so the fact that I found out that I can do a placement here in a field that I'm actually interested in, I don't have to necessarily get a placement that is about accounting or anything like that. So if you come, make sure you get involved, ask questions, go out of your way. If you feel, I know how overwhelming it can be and a bit lonely. So if you feel like you're struggling to make friends, honestly, just go and ask someone, hi, can we be friends? Can we hang out? Honestly, people are not really that mean. So there's no one who's going to tell you no, or, you know, sort of like brush you off. So I think it's important for you, get involved and do as much as possible to make the experience your own, because with COVID, things are very different. So yeah, I think that's honestly what I have to say. And the people who have left the contact, I'm going to leave my contact as well, so you can reach me if you want to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks both to both the students. They just gave us their impression of Loughborough. And as I said, I was a Loughborough student as well, but they are much more recent than me. So I don't think you guys need to hear my experiences. But we're happy to take some questions now. So you can either put these into the chat and then just ask them on there, or if you're feeling brave, you can unmute yourself and ask us any questions that you might have. Also, if you're currently holding an offer for Loughborough, do you want to just show me, just put your hand up in the chat in the sort of responses setting, so we can see how many offer holders we've already got, and then that will help us to advise, or is it mostly new students today? Okay, so one offer holder, is that it?
I've got another one in the chat box as well, so 2. I can see another 2 names that I recognize. I think there are 4.
Okay, no problem. So what questions do we have? And you can ask anything about any aspect of this. We're happy to advise. Okay, if there aren't any questions coming through, okay, how can they start applying for the university? Basically, you're in the right place, because the advice that you need is going to come from UniServe. So UNICEF offices, they are fully equipped to help anyone apply to Loughborough. They will guide you on whether or not you're eligible to come study with us. Hopefully that you will be. So I don't know if you're an undergrad or postgrad, but basically communicate with the UNICEF staff, have a chat with them. We've got the email coming up there. They've helped, I think, over 100 students now register at Loughborough in the last few years. So they know exactly what we're looking for in a student. So they'll be very, very good to advise you on that. And there is still time to apply for this year as well. So if you're still thinking of submission for 2021 entry, you've just about got enough time to do that. I have some, if people aren't sure of any further questions that they might ask, then I have questions for Trishi and Chelsea that I can, I'm interested to know. So Chelsea just touched on something that was quite interesting, which is what did she wish she had known before she arrived at Loughborough? And I'm going to do a warts and all type question. So both of you have talked about why Loughborough is so brilliant. Hopefully students on this, if you've not yet applied, you'll go to our website and you'll see for yourselves what makes us so strong, and we've been strong for many years. What's the worst thing about Loughborough for each of you, please? So I hope I don't regret asking this question, but I'm just generally nosy. So Chelsea, do you want to start? What do you think is the worst thing about Loughborough? And please only pick one thing. Don't give us a whole list.
Okay. Okay, to me, to be honest, because I'm very I'm a creative. Sometimes I normally feel like I don't necessarily fit in because of how much it's such a small town, and sort of most of the people who are in Loughborough are taking sports and everything. So sometimes when I show up, I normally feel very overdressed. So I kind of feel like I wish I was surrounded by a bit more creative people. I mean, maybe I just haven't met them, but I just kind of feel like the people that I'm surrounded with are not creatives. So sometimes I kind of feel like I'm a bit left out. But also I also don't really enjoy the fact that the town is very small. So there's not a lot of facilities that I love, because if I want to shop, I'd prefer to actually walk into a store and go and look for the things that I want. But because there's not really much, I sort of always have to go to like a bigger city, which it's nice that it's close to Nottingham and Leicester, but it would be nicer if some stores were still available in Loughborough. Yeah, I think that's really the only thing I can say. Yeah.
I think I'm with you on that. I think shopping wise, I mean, Loughborough's got cafes, restaurants, it's got cinema, I think there's bowling, there's there's stuff to do in the town. But if you want big shopping, I think probably London's 1 hour 10 minutes away. Or if you want a shorter trip out, then yeah, you'd go to Nottingham or Leicester, which are 10 minutes and 20 minutes away by train.
Yeah. Also, can add is sometimes it's a bit hard to get Ubers. I think because I've spoken to a few Uber drivers and they've said most of them come from Leicester or Nottingham. So sometimes you can be waiting for an Uber for like 25 minutes, just because there's not really many Uber drivers in Loughborough. So that has kind of been a problem, especially when I'm trying to get to uni very quickly because I live at home. And I probably don't want to get the bus or something like that. So having to wait too long to get an Uber is not fun. Yeah.
No worries. Okay, Trishi, would you have what do you think is the worst thing about Loughborough?
So I think I can agree with Chelsea on the fact that there's not enough cabs or like Ubers, and like coming from Kenya, thinking like we drive around most places we go. At the beginning, it was like a big shocker to me that I couldn't get a cab on time. Or like when I was going, I needed to get to a bus because I was getting to the airport. There were not any cabs. So like I literally booked a cab at 9:30 p.m. for a 7 a.m. journey. So yeah, the fact that there's not a lot of Ubers, and it's pretty hard to get like Ubers, even though it's a small town and walking, but like the winters get pretty cold and icy. So sometimes, yeah, probably not the cabs and stuff. And also the town is pretty small, but it is cute, but it is small in terms of like trying to get shopping wise, or like it's not enough clothes kind of thing. So yeah, that's for me what I don't like about Loughborough.
I mean, I think there's, the university rating is always based on lots of different criteria, and consistently the lowest scored area for Loughborough is the city life. But that's because we're not a city. So I do agree. I think as well, I see students will go outside of Loughborough a bit, and it's so easy to fall into the Loughborough bubble because the campus is so big and your lectures, your accommodation, everything is on campus. But definitely, I think it's one of those things, you forego the shopping, you give up your shopping in order to have some of the other advantages maybe, but I don't know if there is a perfect campus out there. One of the students has just asked, I want to know if Loughborough Uni has some scholarships. Yes, we do. So for undergraduate students, the scholarship is 25% of the tuition fee. Those are based if you exceed the entry criteria. So in order to get a scholarship, you must get higher than what we're asking for in terms of grades. You're automatically considered, you don't need to apply separately. For postgraduate students, we've got some partial scholarships as well. So we have 10% if you've got a second class upper in your bachelor degree. We offer 20% if you've got a first class in your bachelor degree. And then we do have some bigger scholarships as well. One of them is called the Africa Trust Development Scholarship. That's just closed for this year, so that'll be open again next year, and that's a 100% scholarship, but it's only open to students if you've got a first class in your first bachelor degree. So if you had a second class upper, unfortunately, one of the first sort of criteria is that we'll look for students with a first class. Any more questions at all coming through? Can I keep asking our two student ambassadors questions then? So we've done the worst thing about Loughborough. What do you think, and we'll start this time with Trishi and then we'll go to Chelsea. What do you think has been the biggest thing about yourself that's changed? I know, Trishi, you mentioned that you'd done, was it kickboxing or something a bit unusual like that? But what do you think has been the biggest change in yourself since you arrived at Loughborough?
Yeah, I did do kickboxing and I'm really small, so that's a bit funny, but I did learn it and I still continue doing it, so that's fun. But the biggest change I think would be the independence I got while I was at Loughborough. Just learning how to get involved in everything, putting yourself forward to do many activities was something that I learned to do more and more frequently, and not being shy to like ask questions of like, oh, can I join you? Can I do this? Was something that like made me personally grow and was the biggest change I can see in myself since coming to uni.
That's good. That's nice. I think, I mean, Chelsea touched on something similar as well. So, connecting with people and just saying to them, would you like to go for a coffee? Growing in confidence to do that. And I think sport is obviously a big way in which we do that at Loughborough. It doesn't mean you have to be sporty to study with us. If you're sitting here and you're not sporty, then it's fine. There aren't jocks and nerds on campus. So it's not a camp where you've got two different types of people around Loughborough. It's all welcome. And I found, and this is going back to when I was a student at Loughborough, and I tried a new sport, which was archery, and I was rubbish. I didn't even hit the target around the actual paper target. So I was thoroughly rubbish at it. And what was amazing is that nobody made me feel like I shouldn't still have a go. So, and I really appreciated that. Chelsea, how about you? What do you think has been your biggest change that you've undergone since you arrived?
For me, my biggest change would be, as I said, being proactive and putting yourself out there and actually being intentional about building connections. Because if you sit in your bubble and wait for people to notice you and be friends with you, especially with COVID, you're going to end up having such a bad experience in university. But another thing that I have also really learned is you, as a student, you need to actually take accountability of your studies. No one is going to be pushing you. No one is going to remind you, wake up and get your work done, attend your lectures. Because of the fact that everything has been online because of COVID, it's important for you as a student to remember that you are still a student. So in as much as, you can always log on to on the app and sort of say that you have attended a lecture. If you don't attend it, you're going to be the one who will be suffering just before your exam. So I think it's important to remember that at the end of the day, in as much as everything is online and there's no one really pushing you, you need to remember that you need to push yourself. Because if you don't, you will end up really struggling trying to cram everything just before the exam. Yeah, I think that's what I'd say.
Yes, you will. And I've even had it. So I know I said earlier that my role is to support students before they arrive at Loughborough, but I've actually also helped out after students have arrived. And one of my tasks was being asked by a Nigerian mum to go and tell her boys to stop playing so much football. So she rang me up and said, Alicia, I need you to go down and tell my boys. And I literally went down to the football pitch and signaled to them, come. When they came to the sideline, said to them, your mother just called. And they all hung their heads like this. So definitely, you know, it's focusing on studies. On the same side of it, you have to be responsible, obviously, for your own study. And the university can only do so much to help with that. On the flip side, if you find that studies aren't going so great, or there's any problem at all academically, Loughborough Uni has 2 personal tutors who will assist you. So most universities will just have 1 personal tutor, whereas at Loughborough we have 2 assigned to you. So if there is any academic issues, they will be the ones to support you with that. There is a whole department dedicated to supporting students as well. So there is a student support centre. That's part of the accommodation. Careers is part of that. Any sort of counselling or advice or anything like that that students need, you'd go to the student support centre and they will assist you as well. So unless there's any other questions coming through, now is your opportunity. You've just got a couple of minutes left. But I think otherwise, if Catherine and Alicia, if you're happy to sort of wrap up and say a big thank you to our 2 student ambassadors, is there anything else that you wanted to ask at all at this stage?
No, I've not got any questions, but I would encourage everyone in the audience to ask away, because I think some of the most honest and valuable opinions you can get are of people who are on the ground. And it's something that we always try and promote. And it's amazing that we've got 2 students who are at different stages and are studying different things. So again, I've been calling you Alicia this whole time. We have a great relationship with Alicia. And we can always get back in touch with her and with Chelsea and Trishy as well. So if you do think of any questions afterwards, you're more than welcome to get in touch with us. I have someone unmuted. Do you have a question? Hello?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
With COVID and the precautions that are being taken, is Freshers Week still a thing? Is it still happening? The activities that happen in that week?
The easiest answer to that is sort of. So yes, Freshers Week is still happening, but there won't be activities like they were perhaps when Trishy started with us. There'll be more sort of online activities because we're still trying to socially distance and be responsible at the same time. So normally Freshers Week, you've got like a whole different bunch of activities going on in person. They might involve sort of societies, football matches, people crossing over with each other a lot. So what we did last year, and Freshers Week will probably look quite similar this year, is we can meet up outside. So hopefully the weather may still be fine by then. We'll see how it is at the time. We can do activities outside. There will still be things like bank inductions. You'll get introduced to the medical centre. You'll have campus tours. You can meet your department. All of that stuff will still go ahead in person. But I think probably what will happen is that the student union will maybe do their introductions online instead of in person like we did before. So instead of putting 200 students who are new starting freshers into a room together and introducing the student union to you in person, it'll probably be like this. You'll do it online, but there's an online platform for you to do activities as well. And I know last year, for example, they signed up to things like Les Mills online demand fitness classes and stuff like that. So there are still ways to engage. I think Chelsea raised an important point about not feeling isolated when you're at Loughborough. It is a global pandemic and we are doing everything we can for students to feel engaged and part of the community and everything else, but that relies on you reaching out as well. So if you start to feel like you are feeling a bit isolated, there's loads of people that you can go to and talk to about that. We don't have to force you to join into anything. You know, you don't have to be part of the community on every single platform, but just don't be alone on it, because it just makes COVID feel so much longer and more depressing. So basically do engage with us. It relies on you to get in touch. You can do that through societies, if you're into a particular sport, if you want to connect with your department, if you want to connect with other Kenyans. I mean, I was impressed because Trishi listed, I don't know how many societies that she's a member of, but it was a lot. And then she's treasurer in her department for the Chemistry Society as well. There's loads of stuff going on for every different type of taste. So do find something you like and engage with people who like the same thing, is the best advice. So guys, I think that takes us neatly up to pretty much 5:30 in the UK and 7:30 with you. So I'm sure you want to get back to your evening. Massive, massive thank you to those of you who've given up your time. Catherine, UNICEF team, Alicia and Trishi and Chelsea especially. And thank you for listening to us go on and on about Loughborough. As you can tell, we're all very biased about this university. It's got a special place in our hearts. So if you want to know more, please do connect with the UNICEF team. They can help you with your application. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.